Bold ideas. What is this, number 9?
This is number 10, I believe.
10. All right. I'm me or you. Let's do this.
Yep, I'm me. You're you. Let's go, buddy. How you been, man?
Better than I deserve. How about you?
Well, I'd like to think I deserve better.
You don't.
I probably don't. That's a
You
line
probably
out there,
don't.
it says everybody gets the life they deserve.
There's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth
Yeah.
to that.
There's
It's
a
how
lot more.
you
Go
go ahead.
ahead. I was gonna say there's a lot more truth to it that people want to believe.
It's I hate to say this. There's things that happen to you that are random. Like a friend of mine got hit by a car and he didn't get any money from it. And I was just talking to him last night. He's
That's
in
tough.
tough times. And there's things that happen to you that you have no control of, but you do have control of the next thing you do. You don't have control of what happens to you. You have control of what you do from there. And there's a lot of times I see people that get hurt or injured. I'm not as bad as they say it is, and focus on the injury instead of focusing on getting better. And I've seen people go crazy situations either way. Like if you tell yourself I can't work and I can't do that, you're right. You can't. I've seen people that say the doctor said you'll never walk again. Bruce Lee was told you'll never walk again.
Yeah.
And he said, nah, I'm going to go do martial arts again. And he changed the world after the doctor said you can't do this.
What did it happen to him? I don't even know.
Got in a fight and it broke his back.
Ow. That's tough.
Mm-hmm. And he had to relearn to walk. I mean, it's you wouldn't know that after seeing Bruce Lee move the way he does. But there's a lot of people that go through a lot of shit, and how they react to it is everything.
Well, that's the whole stoic thing, isn't it? You can't control the world. You can only control how you react.
Correct. But I'm saying what I'm trying to illustrate is you can go both ways. I can't work, I can't walk, I can't do this. If you listen to the doctors and they say you can't do this, I've heard stories, I've seen stories where people the doctor took out his voice box. He was a pastor. And then he couldn't talk. He had to talk with one of them. Like, yeah, this is a pastor. He loved talking, loved preaching, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah,
They
not
told
like
him to
that.
step down. He stepped down. I think he smoked too, so I think he put some effort into screwing it up. But he prayed, and nothing happened for a long period of time, and then they have an audio tape of it, and he's talking in the voice box and blah 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 blah. And his parish asked him to come back out, and he's talking in the voice box. And then he was reading a passage on healing, and then he just starts talking, and you hear him go, rah, 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 rah. Well, when in the days, and then the crowd goes nuts. Crowd goes nuts, and he goes, God is good, and he's talking normal. He went back to the doctor, and he said, hey, the doctor heard him talk, and he's like, took your voice box out. Here's an X-ray of you without a voice box. Here's an X-ray with you in a voice box. And he goes, well, how do you explain this? And he goes, the doctor said, in my industry, I can't. But obviously in your industry, you can.
Yeah.
So that was, it's really how you focus, what your focus is, and how powerful your focus
Your attention, right? Yeah.
More attention. Everybody calls it something different. I call it focus. Other people call it attention. Other people call it mindfulness. What you set your mind to. All of it's the same thing. Your intent. You intend to do this. Someone intended to build the Golden Gate Bridge. It was an idea at one point. Someone talked about it, spoke it into existence.
I got into this conversation with my wife the other day. It's talking about how thought precedes everything.
It does. Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
Everything begins with the thought, whether it's the negative thought you're having that's sending fucked up chemicals into your body, whether it's, you're big on that one. Whether it's because she tried to give me some pushback, and I'm like, yeah, but look, you come up with the blueprint before you come up with the building. I mean, this is all a thought. It's all in a thought until there's a is it a Bob Proctor thing? He talks about the thing that has probably changed the world more than anything is a pen and paper.
Thought, thought and
Well,
verbal.
because you could take that and you could put it on something, and then you can share it with someone else, and then it's already a thing. It's already it's
Yeah,
uh,
you're putting the idea on paper. I get it, but really it's the thought. So when
well, thoughts come and go though, unless you do
they
something with them.
they do, and actions precede thought,
Negative,
positive or negative.
negative.
No, positive thought, generally gets
You
positive
said
action.
actions precede thought. Precede,
Actions
right?
precede thought. Precede,
How? We just agreed that thought precedes everything.
not precedes. What's after precede?
Proceeds after. Proceeds.
Precedes after. I'm using the wrong word.
Precedes is pre is before, right?
Yeah,
Proceeds. Action.
proceeds,
Yeah,
proceeds,
that's a
action.
really clunky way to say that, but yeah.
Yeah, I got to find a different way. But anyway, it follows thought. Action follows thought, positive or negative. And if everything's positive in line, it always works out. Like I said, the Golden Gate Bridge was an idea. Somebody thought about it. Hey, we want to get from here to there. All right, how do we do it? Well, you got to find a bridge builder. Bridge builder says, "I'll draw it up. Give me some money." Goes to the bank, get the money. The banker wants to lend on that. Everybody in building. See, I'm kind of a builder, so I understand it. Everybody wants to do it. God set up this great system where everybody wants to do it. The architect wants to draw it up because he makes money and has the Golden Gate Bridge is part of his portfolio. I designed the Golden Gate Bridge. You can do anything after that. Then the guy that financed it said, "I financed the Golden Gate Bridge," and then the designers designed it, and then the steel men built it, and all of them did something that they probably didn't think could be done. The Taj Mahal, the one building in New York, every building everybody wants to do it, and it's really
This
not that hard.
this is why the Freemasons were so important for so long.
So I don't understand the Freemasons. Explain them to me.
Why? So it's basically,
Secret organization, I understand.
well, it starts in Egypt, I guess, is the real deal. Because
They were Masons.
they take those mathematics and they push them forward. They call it ancient geometry and stuff like you would use to build those domes and things. Like that's all like supposedly ancient geometry and this and that.
Well, it's current geometry too, but they might have got it from the past. I went to the Mormon temple in Salt Lake City, Utah, and they had a crown beam or a crown truss, and I was like, how do you make this big beautiful dome? You want to know what's super fucking amazing? You want to know what's super amazing? I went to the Duomo in Italy. It's this church in Florence.
Duomo?
Duomo, fucking insane.
Wow.
Insane. You know the baseboard in your house?
Mm-hmm.
It's like 3 to 6 inches. When you look at a wall, the proportion of that base to that wall, if you had it too small, it looks too small. If it's too big, it looks too big. The base on the Duomo on the outside is taller than me.
That's cool.
The building's huge. It's gorgeous. It's been around since the 1200s. And they built it in the 1200s. And then during the tour, I went on the tour and they said, and it has this big, huge round area, right? And there's a dome on top. And they said, when this was built, they built it without the dome. And I'm tilting my head. And when they built it, it was going to take 150 years to complete. So I would start it. My kids or somebody else would take it over. Their kids would take it over. Their kids would take it over. Take over the responsibility of building. It's insane. So they're in the tour, and they said, and then 150 years after it was built, they wanted to put the dome on it, and then the Pope, the Pope is like a king at the time, right? And the Pope, wanted the dome put on, and so they hired this guy Benelli. Benelli with the last name Benelli was a German guy, really weird. And they said, "I want you to put the dome on." He goes, "Okay, I'll do it, but I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to do it." And she said they could only theorize that A, he didn't know how to do it, or B, he didn't want to share his secrets. And I raised my hand. I said, "I'm a builder. It's A. Trust me, it's A." And she's like, "Why do you say that?" And I said, "You got to start something knowing you're going to finish." and you'll figure out a way. There's always a way. And this dome on the top of this thing is insane. First, the inside, the real key to it, which really bearing the weight, and the walls in the church are 3 feet thick solid cement. Right, so it could bear the weight of this unbelievable dome. But the real secret was they put a dome, and then they put a dome on top with a gap in between. So all of it was be too heavy to do it. So they put it in 2 sections, interior dome. And so we climbed up through the gap in between to get to the top. And at the top, there's a turret at the top, and we walked around it. There was marble keystone. A keystone, if you see an arch, you start building the arch, and the keystone goes in the middle. Right? You ever see a keystone on an arch? That's the last piece.
Oh, really?
Like you see an arch, and then you see a cool rock in the middle. It might protrude a little bit more. These keystones were, centerpiece, marble, 4 feet by 3 feet thick. It's 4 feet tall. 3 feet thick, 4 feet, 4 or 5 or 6 feet wide, 4 feet tall. And there was 4 or 5 of them around this arch. You need this walkway, this turret around the top. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, how in the fuck did you get up there from there in 1200s? We had no cranes. We had no helicopter lifts. We had nothing. How in the fuck did that big, huge rock?
Ancient architecture is usually more fascinating the farther you go back.
Oh, then I went to the
That's so strange, though. So counterintuitive. You would think that we would be getting better as we go along, but
dude, there's crazy. Like I went to the Colosseum in Rome. Yeah, that was built in 76. That was completed in 76. Not 1, not 2, not 76. And I'm looking at these rocks. How the fuck did you get up there? How does that? What? How? We have no cranes, no gas, no head electricity, nothing. And that stuff just got to where it's got to go. And they go, and people always argue with me. They go, oh, they had slaves. I said, fine, I'll give you 1,000 men right now. Go fucking do it. How? How are you going to get this up there? You need 1,000 men to hang on a rope or what?
Okay, conventional thing is like pulleys and shit, right?
Okay, pulleys, but where are you going to? Okay, fine. You need something. So if you're going to put something on top here, and it's 100 feet to here, and this corbel cap is thousands of pounds, you want to put the corbel cap on top of the corbel. What are you attaching it to? There's nothing up here.
You would, I guess, make some pulley system, I guess is what they would say, right?
What? You got to have a fulcrum point.
Well, they would probably make a makeshift crane that would be pulley oriented. I don't know. I don't
either, and I'm a builder.
But that's the common thing, right?
Well, there's other ones that blow my mind too. There's one that I saw, this one ancient. You're talking about those. You're probably watching the show Ancient Architectures. They had these like stones that were kind of like weird designs, and other ones that would fit it, like weird designs, not square. Square is easy, right? They had these weird designs, and this stone was cut out like this. And this stone was cut out like this into another part, and they all fit together that a piece of paper couldn't go in. And this is in like the 600s. I'm like, what? How do you make that? How do you do that? And these are stones, not like today. There's a lot of stuff you see out there that's called casted stone, sandstone. It looks like limestone. They just make it look gray. And you see all those beautiful like lions and stuff like that? They're poured in a mold.
Is that the same way they did like the gargoyles and stuff too?
Well, when? We could do that technology now. We couldn't do that technology in the past. Back in the gargoyles, back in the day, they had to hand make it like David. That Red David. They had to, and then they fucking take off a nose and throw that one away and got to start over again. And it's just like crazy, insane architecture. But now we can cast that stuff. It's crazy, dude.
It's just, I think it's the most crazy is that the farther you go back, the more advanced shit is, and it's retarded. But you think about it, like I was watching this fucking video earlier. I've been watching this guy, this inspector. I guess he's just popular on YouTube, and he's talking about how there's cardboard, I guess, that is lining some of the exterior of some of these houses.
Yeah, dude, I've seen
so much so that a good wind blows and it falls down. Apparently,
I've seen the craziest stuff I've ever seen.
$200,000-$300,000 houses is what he was talking about.
Yeah, but they were $50,000 houses when they were built with cardboard.
No, they were being built still.
Today?
Today, dude.
That's illegal. Well, in some
Well,
states.
it's like it's a layer of it. Maybe it wasn't the finished product or something. Like it got caught in between.
No, no,
Built.
no,
Like
no.
it seems retarded that it would ever fall upon construction. But
No, dude, you're not getting it. Like in some areas, in the offshoots, I went to go. I swear to God, if I told you the story, it's crazy. My mother-in-law was buying a house from the Partons in what is that? By Dolly World, Pigeon Forge, right? This is before 2000, so it was $750,000 house, right? Beautiful, big 5,000-6,000 square foot house. My mother in law was getting this unbelievable deal, and there was a problem in the basement, and I went out there to look at it. I looked at everything. I looked at the problem, and I talked to the broker, and I said, I go, hey, wow, this, you're missing this, you're missing that. There's, they're going to fix that up and stuff like that. We can put that in the offer and stuff like that. I go, I'm going to go check out the building department and see it. This is built a few years ago. I want to talk to them about the permit. She goes like this. She goes, so with a smile on her face, she goes, what permit? I go, the permit to build this $750,000 house. All they had as a permit was to get the power to the house. That's the only permit we have around here. I go, a builder could do anything he wanted? She goes, yeah. I just thought, no checks and balances. So yeah, when there's cardboard in houses, yeah, that makes sense. Where is it at?
I don't know. I think it was either out west or Texas or something. I don't know.
It could have been it could be anywhere that doesn't have building codes. And I just got a past building code in Port Richey, Florida. I got this nice certificate. It's such a pain in the butt. They gave me
You've
a
been waiting on that
certificate of
thing, man.
completion. It took me a month to get the permit. A day to do it. 2 hours to the inspection, and I passed. A month to get the permit. A month. 1 month, start to finish.
As I say, 50 cents holding up $1, right?
Well, there's both ends. There's one that it takes too long to do, and there's one that you don't need an inspection. You only need a permit to build a house. So it's all different. It's crazy. So when you see cardboard on a wall, yeah, I get that. Yeah, I
That's
understand.
insane. But they had come by and said that a big wind would take these things down. You see them filmed and they collapsed and everything. It's like, what the fuck?
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
That's so crazy.
It is so crazy, but that's why all our listeners, hey, listen, we want you to have a house that's inspected. And if you ever had inspections, building permit to build the house, and any permits during the process, you can go check that out, the city codes, and see if they, if sometimes there's open permits, you can't sell the house. This was an open permit, and I can't sell the house until it was closed. Now that I closed it, I can sell the house.
That's all that flood shit, right?
Yeah, that was the flood stuff that hit. For you viewers that don't know, my house got hit by Hurricane Helene, and it had 10 inches of water in my whole house. I had to take out anything in the house that was 10 inches up. So drywall, cabinets, countertops.
Was it Helene or was it Milton?
Helene. Milton didn't do nothing. We got water by you, and you were not even in the AE flood zone.
Yeah, well, I have the river right over here, though.
Yeah, that's true. But you're not in the AE flood zone. You shouldn't get.
I think we are actually in the A. I think
You're not in the AE. You're in the X. Are you in the X flood zone? X is the 500-year flood zone. That might be what you're in.
Either really like A or B, but I think we're actually A, even though it's a funny split.
It's weird how they split it up, dude. It's weird how they split it up.
Yeah, it's who do we want to carry crazy flood insurance?
Right. Well, I understand why the insurance is crazy now, because I saw how many houses all my neighbors got taken out.
I don't know, man. This whole goddamn insurance. This whole goddamn insurance game is just. I don't know. Like there was one that smashed into Fort Myers a few years back and devastated them, and
took out the pier.
Most of the buildings that were destroyed, I was looking through. I think most of the buildings that were destroyed were old builds, like from like the 80s and stuff that just weren't up to snuff, because a lot of the stuff that was newer made was basically okay
Yeah. So do you know why that is?
because they build shit better for the most part now.
Because of the building codes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's much of a pain in the ass. That's kind of what I was thinking about recently with this inspector guy. Is that these things are a pain in the ass, and we all hate them, but they're there to save lives in the end. That's
They
what.
are to save your house too. You know,
Yeah.
they had this really weird code for me, and they searched it out. Like, now my house is in the 80 flood zone, and I'm literally my house to the water to around canal to the Gulf of Mexico is
You're
probably
on the
70.
canal. You're on the water, dude.
Yeah, my house, my back of my house is 30 feet from the water, and
Yeah.
it came up and came into the house. So
Wow, you have the canal right at your back door, though.
you do,
And
but
then
you know
that fishes out to the Gulf of 30 feet, I guess. But yeah.
my house is pretty protected, and it still got flooded because I have this little canal that goes into a bay, and the bay canals out and goes out into the Gulf. So we had this throat that's probably 50, 60 feet. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, water had to come in, you know, a lot of water has to come in and a lot of water has to go out for my house to flood, right? It wasn't even that. It didn't come through that 50 feet. It came over everything. The
It's
water
water.
came up. Yeah, it came. Well, you know,
Water doesn't care.
and no, it don't give a shit.
Water
It
don't
don't give a
care.
shit. It doesn't give a shit. Yeah, but it was an amazing thing to see. Not like I want to see it again, but it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. All my first place trophies except that one got thrown away.
Why
Yeah, I
thrown
know.
away?
Because the anything saltwater touches has to be thrown away. It just starts to mold. Just molds.
No, just bleach that bitch and call it a day.
I don't
Throw
think
it
you
in the pool
understand.
for a little while. It'd be all right.
The pool was full of seawater. You remember that?
Well, it was. Hey,
So
if you need
there's
chlorine, I got chlorine. I know a guy.
I know a guy. But what should have happened is to wash off everything, and it would have saved a lot of stuff. But in the hurricane, the water got shut off. The fresh water got shut off to the houses.
Yeah.
You know, all the sewers backed up because you know the water went over the toilet and stuff. And my some of my neighbors, I mean, I'm done with it. You know, we're getting ready to sell it, and some of my neighbors, I just went to Home Depot and I saw him. I go, hey, what's up, man? He goes, I go, is your house okay? He's like, no. I go, you know, how long before you're done? He goes, another 6 months.
I know your neighbors are still going through. They still got those pack rat containers out in the driveways and quite a few
Yeah.
houses over there.
But I'm a flipper, so I know how to do it, and I had access to good contractors that were willing to do it for a fair price. And I mean, some of these, you know, the
That's when they
vultures
come
that come
in.
out,
Yeah, that's when they come
vultures that
in,
come out,
dude.
and I mean, I'm just standing there, and this guy comes, hey man, you know me, come and demo your house, take everything out 2 feet up. They usually go 4 feet. I made them go two this one because my water didn't come up that high. You want me to take everything out 2 feet? I'm like, yeah, give me a price on it. He goes, $7,800. The other guy was 12 grand. And I went, just to take out the stuff in there? He goes, yeah. All right. No. And then I got somebody to do it for $4,000 and dewater it, which just basically means put blowers in there,
Got the
dry it
fans
out,
down. Yeah.
and then spray this. It's called I think it's NR or something. It's just basically demolder. So you
Yeah.
spray it
The
on there,
mold
let that
killer.
dry. Mold kill. It's mold killer and makes it so it doesn't want to come back either.
Like
So
a
you spray that
preventative
in all the
too. That's cool.
yeah. So to do that it was 4,000 is fair. It's a bitch of a job, but people were coming out for like 4 times the amount of what it
Put the
should have
heavy
been.
smell need in the air, and they're like,
Well, they and there's a law against that.
there. It's probably a loose law, but yeah,
It's a
it's
pretty
just
sturdy law, and
I
it's
don't
like
know
you
if there
can't.
is a law, really. I know it's
There
frowned
is a
upon,
law.
but it's like there is emergency services too, so those guys get their thing going too.
Well, right, but there's a law that you can't charge 3 times what you usually charge. But if you charge 12,000 to demo a house, you're not charging 3 times what you usually charge. That's how they get around that law.
Say, there's a workaround.
There's always a workaround.
Where there's a will, isn't that what you said about the?
There is. Where
Where
there's a
there's a
will, there's a
will,
workaround.
there's a way.
There's a way.
Uh-huh. So
So
what's
what
been
kind of
going
crazy
on?
ideas you got to talk about?
Oh, it's always something, man. It's always something.
Only with you, man. You come up with the craziest ideas.
It's not only with me. I'm just paying attention.
How dare you?
How dare I?
How dare you?
That's the only thing I'm not too broke to do.
So broke, I can't pay attention.
Yeah, I vowed long ago I will never be that broke.
Have
I,
kids.
I ain't
It
doing it,
gets better
man.
when the kids get older.
Well, I think even having kids, you need to pay more attention to what's going on.
You do, but you can't worry about it.
Well, no, you just use it to prepare better. That's basically the.
True. Some people worry about it. And I worried about it too. I can't, I was part of
Well, I
this
mean,
problem.
anxiety is at an all-time high. It seems like in people. So,
You get it?
do I get what?
Anxiety.
Past couple of years, I started to,
Mm,
but before then, never once. Not like, well, I shouldn't say never once, but like
rare.
it would have been a long time ago. Like real anxiety would be like what? Abject poverty. Like you don't know where you're gonna be living, that kind of thing, right? These moments have
Especially
happened,
when you
I'm
got
sure.
kids.
Well, yeah, I think it's the one thing you can't afford to be is too broke to pay attention, especially if you got kids.
Well, that's where I work the most. How old are you? We're 38.
36.
Yeah, that's where I was that way too, man. I was stressed out about everything. I wouldn't sleep. Like all night, I just stare at the fucking ceiling. Just wouldn't sleep. And then I just had an encounter with Jesus, and then I went into church, and it kind of cured everything, man. But I was stressed. I was stressed.
Yeah, well, I know the
I
feeling.
called the doctor to take some medication, and then he gave me this medication. I called him 3 days later. This fucking shit don't work. Give
Mm.
something else. I
Well,
almost wanted to kill a client.
that's probably lucky for me. I found real medication, so
Uh, whatever works for everybody.
the alien plants.
The alien plants. I don't know if they're alien plants. I think they're
Well, they say that mushroom spores can survive in the vacuum of space.
no.
Yes. So I call them
Really?
alien. I call them alien plants.
The vacuum of space they can survive. That's insane.
Like
Well, I guess we're going to be
I
on
assume that
Mars.
they've found these spores on like asteroids or something. I assume there's something related in that fashion, but I don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories that asteroids brought a lot of life over from other planets.
Like a transpermia thing or something, isn't it? Panspermia, transpermia, something like that.
Yeah, man, you can't speak like that in this podcast. This is a family friendly podcast.
I'm definitely speaking like that. You know the idea of transpermia, right?
No,
Oh, really?
enlighten me.
Oh, really? All right. Well, here's what I'll do. I will look it up just so I don't talk out of my ass. But I know what it is. But there's several different kinds of these spermia things.
Spermia.
So transpermia
That sounds like
is.
a transvestite hooker.
It sounds a little dirty, don't it?
It does. That's why I kept saying it's family friendly.
Term, yep, that's what I thought. Transfer of life, basically. A term used by some scientists to describe the transfer of life from planet to planet.
Oh, well, that's a cool idea. That's a cool
Mm-hmm.
concept.
Mm-hmm.
I
Making
thought
that
that was terraforming. I think
life term.
terraforming is intentional.
Well, I think the terraforming is maybe what they do when they get here, but the getting here is called the transpermia because they've transferred from one place to another.
Right. But I think that's probably the definitional differences is I don't think transpermia is intentional. I think transforming is intentional.
And then panspermia is a theory proposing that life in the universe is not unique to Earth and that it has been distributed throughout the cosmos by space dust, meteoroids, asteroids, and comets.
I kind of fall into that one more than anything else.
Yeah, I don't know. If you ask me, that's the funnest conversation, man. That's the funnest thought. It's the funnest thought. It's such the funnest
What's the
thought.
funnest thought?
That we could be an abandoned seed colony.
Dude, could you imagine if we were like an ant
That
farm?
is that blows my mind that that could be a thing. Like maybe the aliens planted a seed here, and then something happened to them, or they couldn't make it back, or some weird shit. And it's like, oh my god, the possibilities if you were to entertain that, right? Insane.
Insane amount of possibilities.
That
Though.
is a paradigm shift forever. Because that's a lot of people playing this with the Anunnaki, right?
Oh, that's the yeah, exactly. That's the antithesis of that story. It's a story. Is
Yeah,
it true? We don't know. But it's a story. It's a
you'll
great
never
story.
know. Yeah,
The Anunnaki mated with the female women because they thought they were pretty, and then made some giants, and then
they
the
got the
giants,
Nephilim.
the Nephilim, started ruling the world, and then God said, "No, Moses get on a boat, or no, Noah get on a boat, and
Flooded them out.
then drown them all,
Yeah, well,
just like my house."
a little bit.
Yeah,
I think I've heard Randall Carson talk before about 500 feet uh, water level changes.
yeah. Take out most of the population. Everything past the 500 feet, really. Well, depending
500
500.
feet is insane. 500 feet, imagine a coastal line anywhere, and then going 500 feet up. And
Florida would be underwater.
absolutely.
Florida's flat and not that high.
We're almost underwater now.
Nah, I don't know about that. You're not even close,
Dude,
man.
we're
You got
at
time.
sea level, man.
Yeah, I was out on my dock, and they said, "How far is sea level?" It goes right there.
What a dumb question.
All right. How far is this to sea level? It's right there.
Just use your eyes, man. Look, it's right there. But
It's
yeah,
weird
that
the stuff you see in the sea too, man. Like see dolphins, sharks, and all kinds of crazy
yeah,
cool stuff.
yeah.
Squids, everything lives there.
Well, here it's not like that everywhere, but here, yeah.
Well, I moved to a different house on a lake, and there's a lot less shit that can kill you. No lake.
Well, I guess they say that every lake in Florida you could just assume there's a gator in it.
Correct.
You should
Correct.
just assume that because it'll keep your ass a little safer.
Well, South Carolina, we're in South Carolina, and my cousin lives in Charleston, and he sent a video of a house 4 doors or 10 doors down from where he lives, and there's a fucking gator just gone. Those gators are badass individuals, man. They
They
are they are a unique breed.
they're dinosaurs.
Yeah, but their abilities, like they can hold their breath underwater for hours. They
That's
can.
what you got to do when the world is falling apart and there's cataclysmic events happening and all that shit.
Well, they have. We don't have that ability. So what's going to happen to us? We got underground tunnels that we can go
Well,
under.
I don't actually. I got to timeline this in my head because I think they lived through it. But the Permian, you know about these extinction events, the big extinction events.
They always say it's the meteors hitting the Earth, right?
Well, yeah, but it's like the Permian, the Triassic, the Jurassic, all that shit, right?
Mhm.
But the Permian, I believe, wiped out like 96 or 99% of all living things on the planet. It was a
Right?
major setback for all of life on Earth.
You're talking about plant and animal.
Yeah, everything.
When was that?
I don't know. I gotta place it because I think I keep it happening in my head at least that the fucking gators and dinosaurs lived through that, or at least some of them did. But I don't know if that's actually the case.
You'd be
But they've
surprised.
lived through similar shit because they were around with the dinosaurs. Just say their simple one, the Jurassic one, right? It's just they survived eating all of the dead carcasses that were around. Of course, they could hold their water forever or hold their breath forever.
Well, the ones that could hold their breath for hours are the ones that survive. The ones that couldn't.
Exactly.
Evolution, baby.
Dude, that Permian one is no joke. Oh my god, I've seen some stuff on this over the years. Oh my god, dude. Insane. Because you have the nuclear winter, right? That's a typical thing with the asteroids. Then they talk about how they had, uh, I guess the volcanoes were all going off, so it threw a lot of sulfur into the air. And then you had sulfuric acid raining down, so it poisoned the water and made the water like an acid bath. And oh my God, dude. Insane.
That's life, baby. That's what life is. Insane.
I got one for you. I'll show you one of these things. There's one of these things happened recently and nobody even fucking talks about it. I have no idea why. We just skip over shit with our two-day news cycle.
Well, we got the attention span of a gnat with TikTok. We had TikTok brain.
And we wonder why we repeat fucking lessons from the past over and over again.
Well, if you don't learn the lessons from the past, you definitely repeat them. It's insane.
Oh, this is what I was going to tell you earlier. I think it's an Andre Gide line. He said, everything that needs to be said has already been said. But since nobody was listening, we have to start all over again.
That is the saddest truth on the planet.
Is it though?
It really is. And I give a lot of coaching to people, you know, and I only give coaching to people that listen. And I can tell when they're ready because they're at their wits' end. That's when somebody will actually listen.
Well,
and when you give somebody good advice and they don't take it, it's like giving them gold and them knocking out of your fucking hand. I don't want that.
No, it's like an insult to your ego.
I don't care about the ego. I care about them. I care about them more than they do about themselves.
Well, they say I told you the thing about change, right? When people change, typically.
There's 4 different events. I forgot what
there's really just one, I think. I say that most people won't change until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change.
That's one of them. That is probably the antithesis of all 4 of them.
Yep.
You know,
and it's sad. That's the sad part that you're talking about. Huh?
Change is so easy.
Change can be easy. It depends on the resistance.
It depends on you. Your ability.
It depends on your resistance to it.
Your resistance. Now, okay, good. We defined it. I didn't want to say resistance because anybody can go through resistance, right? It's your resistance.
Right. It's specific to you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I keep telling everybody it's your fault.
Well, you come back to the fears of the unknown, right? And then you think about change, and change is good. Change is usually good, but people got this thing in their head about the fear of the unknown. You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not fear of the unknown; it's fear itself.
Well, I told you a while back. He's like, "What is fear?" I was like, well,
right.
I think it's for most people, it's fear of the unknown is what you usually fear.
Well, what really fear is,
they say with a lot of like sports and things, fortune favors the prepared. You know?
Yes, absolutely. But what fear really is basically an emotion, and it really is a figment of your imagination.
Yeah.
The worst part about fear is you have to create it.
Well, that's what we said earlier. Remember, we said thoughts precede everything.
Right. And fear is a thought, and you give fear. If you act on fear, you're giving the fear power. Yeah, you're giving it power. You're giving it power to overtake you. And so I never act. I when I was your age, I didn't know as much, but now that I don't act on fear, whenever I get afraid, then I go through it. Now I know I got to do it. You know, like I do public speaking. When I went to GM one time, one of my students goes, "Hey, could you come speak at GM?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." First off, he goes, "Can you speak at GM?" I'm like, "Nah, I don't like public talk, and I'm not a public speaker." And as soon as I said that, I know why I said it.
Out of fear, yeah.
Right. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. And he goes, you got this. You're one of the best speakers there is out. Don't worry about it. And we went to an event where they had other speakers, and I was listening to the other speakers, and I'm like, I'm a pretty damn good speaker because these guys weren't conveying ideas well. They were in the engineering world in GM. They're really techie and
engineer brain.
Yeah, and it's a good brain. I'm part of engineer too, but they get to the technical aspect and not show the big picture.
The why.
Get in the weeds of the tech. You know what I mean?
Need the why to plug it all together.
Bingo. Yeah, there you go. You got it, man. The why is everything. The why
Yeah,
is everything.
I developed that a long time ago too. I kind of am in and out of it. I'm not as committed to it as I should be, but yeah, that's the indicator. Like, God damn it, oh, that scares me. Like, God damn it, now I got to go do that thing now.
Right.
I do this. I've done this my whole goddamn life with heights. I fucking hate heights so bad, but you know what? I climb the
Yep. Yep.
ladders. I get in the trees. I do whatever the thing is. I get on the roof. It is what it is. It's
So
just
what happens when you face your fear? What happens?
growth. Hopefully.
Well, what happens to the fear?
Well, there was a guy that I grew up around a while back. He would do some risky things, and I'd be like, "How do you focus when you're up there?" He's like, "Well, when you start focusing on what you're doing, the other stuff just goes away."
Right. But exactly. So what I like to say, what I like to tell people is, when you run at fear, it runs away from you.
Well, you're definitely in the position of control at that point.
Well, when you run towards fear, it runs away from you. Now, fear, figment of your imagination that only exists in your head, right? Danger is different. That's why I have the hardest time explaining this to people.
Oh, that's a good distinction. Yeah.
No, but dude, everybody has a hard time. When you're standing at the edge of a cliff, right? Danger is prevalent in this world. I could fall off the cliff and die,
Mm,
right? I could die.
mm,
Danger is prevalent in this world.
mm,
People are like, I'm afraid. No, what you're talking about on the roof, hanging over the edge, nailing something is dangerous. But if you're in the middle of the roof, that's not dangerous.
Not as dangerous.
No, if in Florida your pitches are like this, it's
Well, you
not
could still get
dangerous.
a gust of wind or some shit.
No, it's not dangerous. It's not. When you're hanging over the edge doing something, that's danger. People really confuse fear with danger, and that's what really messes everything up.
that's what I mean about that distinction. That's a good distinction to make.
Well, it's so important, and our favorite psychologist, Jordan Peterson, says,
Our?
"Don't ever stop a kid from doing something dangerous safely."
That's not our favorite. That's your favorite.
Is that yours? Who's your favorite psychologist?
Nietzsche.
Dr. Ruth Wettheimer.
I look to Nietzsche for most human issues.
Okay, well then Jordan Peterson's mine. I'll take that.
He's not really a psychologist, though. I
Huh?
guess. I guess you're either gonna pick Jordan Peterson or Jung, really, right?
Well, no, you would consider the great thinkers back in the past, Nietzsche's.
Nietzsche.
Who's the other one that I really like? Is not Solomon. Solomon was wise as all outdoors.
Socrates.
Plato's master, or Plato's teacher.
Plato, I'm a little torn on Plato. Like, I know he gave us the forms and all, but like, I know he laid the groundwork for a lot of stuff. I don't know. I'm not real big on Plato. You're trying to come up
Well,
with it.
they all have their expertise and they all have their great mindsets, and then they, all of them go off task on certain things.
Yeah, sure.
Jordan Peterson is probably the one that I think is the most, because as time goes on, he studied all those guys and he picked the best from each one. So he's got the best knowledge because of handpicking the best parts from the best of the best.
Yes and no. I hear a lot of pushback on him anymore. Yes, he usually has the right idea, but he can also get lost in his own sauce.
I've never seen him get lost. I've never
I
seen
know.
anything that I
I
disagree
don't
with.
think you've seen enough of them, really.
I see a lot of.
Yeah.
I see a lot of.
Maybe you
My
should look
algorithms.
instead of maybe looking at him, maybe look at people that disagree with him for a while and kind of see where people are.
I do see people that disagree with him, but I don't agree with that.
No, not stupid people, smart people. There's a lot of stupid people that disagree with him. But there's actually a few.
I'm gonna look that up now. Smart people that disagree with Jordan Peterson, because everybody else
There's a
is
bunch of
idiots.
people out there that will just disagree to disagree. So I was like, man, just shut the fuck up, man.
Oh, there's that one girl was English. She got fucking hammered by him. She was an English newscaster, and she was trying to write the riot act.
Because
and then
you have to risk
flipped the script
to be able to speak. You have to risk being offensive and all that. Is that the one?
Yeah. He flipped the script on her and he goes, look, and you're being, this is very uncomfortable for me.
What
And
is
you don't
what
seem to care
is?
about that.
I don't get that. I really don't get that. You're a fucking news person, and you're gonna come at a fucking psychologist who studies history for fun sideways. Like, where do you think this is gonna go for you?
Well, so no,
It's a
it's
gotcha moment on somebody you don't know who you're fucking with.
well, the gotcha moment was on her, and
I know,
she even
but she
admitted.
played it up, and these fucking news people do this shit, and it's like, are you sure you want to do this?
But once you so think about this, here's what you got to think about. Now, this is what I understand is combat. What if I understand combat? So
Verbal combat.
what if she prepped for this? She prepped for this interview, right? She knew what he was going to say and everything, right?
She
And so
couldn't.
she asked the right questions, and she was trying to bring him into a trap. What if she trapped him, Jordan Peterson, and got an aha moment or a gotcha moment on him? Then she would look like a superstar. So she was risking her career, right? She was risking her career on trying to trap him, and then she got trapped.
Uh-huh.
You see what I'm saying?
Big gamble. Big gamble.
It was a gambling. It didn't pay off for it.
Well, I just like wouldn't you have tried this on an easier target? I mean, I'm just saying.
I would have on the first four, but maybe she did. Maybe she belittled the last four interviewers and thought, I'm ready for him now. That was a bad idea. I give you that.
We're fucking retard.
Idea.
That's crazy.
I give you 100% that.
That's because I'm crazy. That's not the person. Like, that's like I don't even like the guy, but that's like if you were to go pick on Sam Harris or something. You know, he's a smart dude. Even if I don't like him, I know he's a smart dude. Like, you better come with your shit.
Well, you can't come with somebody on top of their game on their game.
You can't come as somebody dialed in like that.
I could come at Jordan Peters on a building, right? Because he wouldn't know anything about it. So I could come across him on that. And he would know some
Well,
things.
she stepped into his world, though. She stepped into like
he stepped into shit, and she stepped into a shit sandwich. That girl it was just a horrible idea, all around. But she might have built her bravado up and thought I could take him.
the hubris. Yeah, that's basically what I attributed.
Her ego got to her.
Yeah.
God love her, he got to her. I've thought it before. I thought I could fight this guy that I could kick his ass. No, that didn't fucking work. Did it again? No, that didn't work either. There's this guy, there's guys that are super talented at certain things. And then here's what I loved here's one thing I learned when I was competing at the Open. I went and saw, you'd be surprised what your kids can do. I saw these 6, 7, 8-year-olds up to 12-year-olds doing triple kicks and had a bow staff in their hand, a katana, compass, and it just fucking killing it at that level. Just killing it at that level. And I'm just looking at them in such awe. I had my uniform on. I'm looking at them. I'm like, that's amazing. And then these two girls, I think they're Korean. They spoke really good English. And they got off stage. They go, you guys. And at the end, it was like 4th of July, and they pulled up 2 American flags and started shaking them after their team forms. And I go, you guys killed it. I love the party favors after. And they laughed. And it goes, yeah, that was, they're from a different country, flaring American flags.
Wow.
So that was pretty good. And I
complimented them. You can't even get people here to fly them.
Right. And then I went to my event and I was breaking. I had some bricks up and I smashed them. Those 2 girls were staring at me, and they go, wow, you're amazing. I go, I'm amazing at this. You guys are amazing at that. Everybody has their thing that they're good at, right?
Yeah.
And if you're good at it, you can conquer the world with that. I swear, it's just that easy.
Kind of the notion I've got on it before when I've been indulging, let's say, but we need everybody, man.
We do.
We really need everybody to make it happen.
We do. We absolutely do.
Sucks that young men are offing themselves at such alarming rates, then, isn't it?
Well, I don't like that. I feel that there's there's positive and negative out there. The negative is the enemy to me. The enemy is the demons and devils, and they whisper in people's ears, and they just get them. They absolutely get them. World's better without you here. They say that
There's so much stacked against an average person anymore.
If you think so, yeah, you're right. If you think so, you're right.
Oh, hold on, though, because I was talking with a friend of mine about this recently, and it's like,
You got friends?
you know,
I love that
I have a
stutter.
couple people that
You pay him?
tolerate me.
How much you pay him to be your friend?
But because he was kind of what you're on, saying it's all an internal issue, and in some ways, yes, but in some ways, there's a lot of external forces that are coming down that are fucking unnecessary too.
Yeah, 100% right. You're 100% right. But it's your focus. It's your attitude. It's what you focus on. You're
Easier
either going to
said than
focus on
done.
you're going to either focus on positive or negative. Because shit happens to me every day. Do I focus on the shit that happens to me? Do you remember my car that I love so much? That I was 5 payments away from keeping for the I had for the rest of my life? That the hurricane destroyed. You know where it's at now? Guess where it's at now?
You told me where it was. I can't remember though.
Ukraine. So the car that I love so much,
Some drone parts.
I don't have right now.
Some drone parts.
Could I focus on how I don't have my car, how my house got flooded? Could I focus on the negative? Absolutely, I could. It was so hard to put it together. I'm having such a hard time with the building department. Could I focus on that? Absolutely. But I don't focus on that, and I've got an amazing life because I'm focused on the positive.
Yeah.
If you focus on the negative, you said, it's so many things coming against you. Yeah, we were made in the image of God. We have this spark of the universe inside us. Whatever comes against me, I've got this. And if I don't have this, I have a network of people that can help me fix this.
Yeah,
Every problem I've come across, I've come across a million problems. I'm a million to know on solving problems.
That's just easier said than done, man. I think
You're
that
right,
okay,
though.
hold on. There's some of this
You're
I think
right.
you're out of touch
You're
a little
right.
bit too. Because they got
Okay.
this gender war that's going on. You know anything about this gender war?
What's the gender war?
Oh, well, if I have to tell you, then that's a no.
No.
And I think a lot of people in your age group, no offense, but like I get this shit from my dad too. It's like you just look at it with rose-colored glasses, and it's like it's just not the same world that you remember.
Well, explain, elaborate. This is great. This is gonna be a great podcast.
This is the gender war. This is a lot of the. I mean, ever since I've been little, the boys have been the bad one in school because they can't be the one to sit down all the time, right? So the girls are always getting the praise. Boys are always getting in trouble because they're not doing what orderly things that the people think they should be doing. And you got the destruction of masculinity. You're aware of that, at least.
Well, I'm
Or the
aware of
attempted destruction of masculinity.
the attempted. So masculinity can't be destroyed. So I have a man card. Let me show you my man card. I got a man
Tell
card.
that to somebody in North Korea.
I don't. Yeah, I will. So I have a man card. This is a card, but I have a man card. Can you take this man card from me?
Well, you can give it up. That's about
You
it.
can't take it from me. You can kick my ass. I still have my man card. I fought valiantly. I have to give it up.
Yeah.
Right? Masculinity can't be destroyed unless men allow it.
Which they have.
Well, they haven't. They've allowed
What do you
women
mean? They funded it. They fueled it. That's propaganda everywhere to fucking entice it.
Dude, here, listen. Let me help you with this.
It's not me you're helping.
Equality in men and women. Women want equality. You're talking about the young women want equality, right? There is no such thing as equality.
Equality is not real.
And it's not real.
I've said this forever.
And I agree with that statement. Men and women are equally blessed with certain traits, but they're not equal. Women can do things men can't do.
Yep.
Men can do things women can't do.
Yep.
If women think they can do the things men can do, they can't. If men think they can do the things that women can do, if you think a man that transitions into a girl can have a baby, you're out of your fucking mind. You've lost your mind. And we're allowing delusion to happen.
Yeah, it's the upside down world.
Right. But that we allow it. It's always our fault.
Well, yeah, as men it is. Yeah.
Right. It's always our fault. We're allowing stupidity to happen. What happens when men stand up and say that we don't want stupidity? Stupidity doesn't happen. What happens when men say we don't want somebody coming into our country? No, you defend your country. What happens when men say if you want any problem to be solved, if a problem's not being solved, there's not real men to fix it.
Well, this is a line of somebody. I think it's an old George Washington quote. He talked about like the country's in peril. Where are the good men? Won't they come forth and save their country? And it's something. And I wrote on it a while back, but it's something to the effect of every time a man wants to stick his head up and make real change, he gets killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last president got his head shot for it.
Yeah. Well, from Jesus Christ now. Jesus went around talking truth to everybody for 3 years. What happened to him? They nailed him to the cross.
I wrote about that before too. The same people that killed Jesus and crucified him and put him through all the bullshit, those same people are still alive today.
Well, no, they're not still alive. Their ancestors are still alive.
That type of person, those same people are alive and well today.
Okay. Could you say so? My premise is demons talk to people, and God and angels talk to people, right? You ever hear a voice in your head saying, "You can't do this. You're not good enough."
Doubt.
Do you ever hear? Yeah. Do you ever hear a voice say, "You got this," or "Go do this"? When God spoke, He never said, "Go try this. Maybe you can do this." God said, "Go do this." And usually, what this is fucking insanity. When God speaks, He asks you to pull the people out of Egypt. Pull your people out of Egypt. If you're crying to God to get the people pulled out, you got to be receptive to be the answer to it. And then He asked 300. This one King David, I think it was David. I think they're all David in the Bible. That he was to fight the Persian army, right? The Persian army, which was estimated between 100 and 125,000 men. And God said, "Go take 300 men to go overtake the Persian army." No, that was a different one. That's not God. That was Xerxes, and no, this is a different one. And he said, "I want you to pick your men." So he had an army of men, right?
They sure this isn't the same story. It sounds a lot
it's
like
definitely not, it's definitely not the same story. Trust me.
300 men fighting the Persians. It sounds like this.
It does sound like the same, but they here's the differential. They won. They didn't get fucking slaughtered. The 300, he goes, "I want you to bring your men to this hole, this watering hole, this thing, and the people that stick their face in the water and drink, not the people that pick it up like this and drink, the people that stick their face, not the best warriors you got, not the best, these 300." So 300 men stuck their face in the river and drank the water, right? And he said, we're gonna go fight the Persian army because God told us to. That's insane, bro. That's insane. That's insane. It is faith, but it's insane amount of faith, right? I don't think I could have done it. But anyways, they took these.
Times of old were a lot more strict too, because like you did what you were told in a way.
That's true. And what they did is they went up to the top of the hill. We'll say it was like a bay where they came to the ground. They came from the sea to the ground. They're camped all the 100,000. And at night they just lit torches on the top of the ridge and blew horn. And unbeknownst to them, those were one army. There was a bunch of armies, and they started fighting each other and killing each other. And they just kept blowing the horn, and these people started killing each other to the point where the 300 came around and took all the spoils. They didn't even have to fight.
The best Psyop ever.
First in history.
No.
Where was the first Psyop? This is BC, before
Cain and Abel.
It wasn't a Psyop.
It wasn't a direct thing. He was being fucked with, wasn't
he? Yeah, he was. It's always that whisper in the back of your head. Do evil. And where does that come from?
Well, you say God, I say intuition.
But I've heard distinctly, not voices, but it's telepathic.
Well,
This girl's
you
hot.
know what you do though. You do think in words.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and then you have two brains in one. So
Right. But what I'm saying is I don't hear it audibly.
no, self-talk isn't audible. It's it's you
Right.
thinking in words, really.
So let's say there's beings. Here's my premise. Let's say there's beings that are a different wavelength than us, and we can't see them.
Okay.
And there's bad ones and good ones, and they
Okay.
whisper to you.
Talking about
Don't
spirits.
do this. Spirits.
Yep.
So they whisper to you. You know, they tell you to do bad stuff. And I've heard a lot of bad stuff. And at the time, the bad stuff sounded, when I was younger, the bad stuff sounded good.
It was awesome.
Do these drugs, rob this, steal this,
Yeah.
beat up this
That looks
person.
better. That looks better in your car.
And it looks better in your car. Yeah, that exactly. That looks better in your car. That's it. Yeah, that's it. And then I hear the other side, you know, say that's not right. This is good. And I tried to listen to the good. Didn't always listen to him. But I do notice when I listen to the good, you know, like go do this, like, you know, go break a board, go break a baseball bat, go do this. It really changes my life.
I mean, it gets you on the right path. That's basically what.
It helps me. I'm a very performance oriented individual. So when I hear good and I do it, it works. Then I want to do more good. Does that make sense? But if I heard bad and it works, I would do more bad. Does that make sense?
Momentum, right?
Well, you focus. I'm a performance oriented individual.
Focus is one thing, but you're talking about results.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
My
like
focus goes
if you're doing good or you're doing bad, if you get a win, you're like, oh, I'm gonna chase that down. Or if I'm doing bad, then I get a win. I'm like, oh, I can chase that down.
right.
And it's kind of the momentum you gain at the beginning is like, and then you just end up fucking down the road.
The performance of whatever it does. And whenever I did bad, I noticed performance was bad for me. When I did good, the performance was good.
Okay. In my head, I'm thinking results though. But yeah, same thing.
It is result oriented. It is result oriented. Yes, it is.
When you say performance, it means to me more like what you're doing more than the outcome of what you're doing.
It's more the
performance is like falling in love with the process. That's performance.
Well, performance is doing the actions. Perform.
Right.
So doing the actions gets me the results I do, and then then I know that's the right way to go. God leads me by love. So then I do more of that, and then it's good. And then when I down this path, this sounds good, and then it's wrong, and I'm like, oh shit, I get back on this one. You know what I mean?
It's a slippery slope.
And I could see in my life, man. I had one of my best friends lived in Detroit, man. His dad was a gangster, was a legit gangster. If I mention the name, I swear to God, you know who it was, and they were involved with Hoffa. I could have worked for them.
Yeah.
Right. And then my dad told me that my grandfather was offered a job with the Mothers and Fathers Association, and he denied. He said anybody that hires my kids is going to have to answer to me. So no meninos were ever allowed to work in that industry.
It's for the better, I'm sure.
Yes, I saw the good and bad of it, and it was my friend. It's just the weirdest thing in the world. I was like the Eddie Haskell of the fucking household. I don't know if you know what Eddie Haskell is. So it's Leave Her to Beaver, sitcom in the 50s, and the family was always the star of the show, and this happy dorky kid comes in and he goes, hey, his name's Eddie Haskell. And I would walk into this house. I'd walk into this house like I was one of the kids. I knew him so well. I go, hey, Mr. G, how you doing? He goes, hey, Mike, you want a sandwich? I go, yeah, PB&J. And I go, where's Vince? He goes, upstairs. And I just walk in this room and stuff. His dad was rarely there, and I very rarely saw him. But every time I saw him, he taught me something. And he was an enforcer. He was a big dude, big, burly. I mean, he was like a man squared. And I remember one time I came in, I was just a happy idiot. I'm walking in, I'm like, hey, what's going on? He goes, hey, Mike. I go, hey, Mr. G, what's going on? He goes, not much. He goes, work going good? He goes, yeah. He goes, I go, where's Vince? He goes, Vince! And Vince comes running from wherever he is and stands in front of his dad. And it's like, what's up? He goes, did you mow the grass? He goes, yes, sir. Did you clean the garage? He goes, yes, sir. Did you clean your room? Yeah. He goes, all right, Mike's here. Get the fuck out of here. That's how their father and son dynamics were.
Running a tight ship.
Running a tight ship.
Yeah.
And and then I was in school. My dad came to pick me up, and I always give my dad a kiss. It's an Italian thing. Hey, Dad, what's up? And then, I'm in school. I just didn't even think of it. And then we took off, and my buddy Vince saw that, and I saw how him and his dad were.
And polar opposite.
Yeah, different. Large difference. More military, more love. And a couple days later, Vince goes, "Hey, man, you kiss your dad?" I thought he was going to start calling me gay because that was a big thing in the 80s. You know what I mean? Start giving me a hard time.
Yeah.
And I go, "Yeah, why?" And he goes, "That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool." I go, "Oh, wow. Wasn't what I was expecting."
I saw through the fluff of whatever. Yeah.
Well, he saw.
Well, he didn't take the easy bait, right?
He didn't take the easy bait. Yeah, that's true. He did not take the easy bait. But it was a really unique. Experience to see a different. That's when you start seeing different households and how they work.
Yeah. Well, they say with the kids, they don't know another relationship,
right? Until they go to the other houses.
Well, that's why they say that the importance of picking a spouse, the importance of how you have your household and things, and because especially until they get to be an adult, probably in their 20s, they're like, this is why people mostly picked wrong a lot of the times with their first partner, whether they're married to them or whatever. It's just that they don't know another relationship than the one they grew up around. So that's their model of a relationship. So that's kind of the one they seek out naturally. And it takes a lot of effort to kind of work through that and see what's supposed to be or what could be or whatever.
So I notice a lot of people are attracted to, like they said, your daughter will find someone like you. Your son will find someone like your mom, his mom.
Yep.
And I've seen that a lot, but with my wife, I am not like my father-in-law. It's a major differences. And like I run my household, and the mom runs the household with him. So I thought my wife would want that, and she goes, "No, I don't want that. I don't want that responsibility. I don't want that. I don't want to sit there and belittle my husband in front of people." And that's what she had to do once in a while. So it was. You get to choose what you want, but you don't always choose what people think you're going to choose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I went pretty hard in the opposite direction, actually.
How was your mom?
How? She's alive.
Well, okay, so she wasn't like trying to say she wasn't that great. How did you choose differently? Let's put that.
I just sought somebody that was a lot more responsible, I think.
That's what you wanted, though.
Man, that's not what I got, though. I mean, I got, but I didn't have that growing up, really.
Right. I'm sorry you didn't have that. That's tough.
Yeah.
Your formidable years, you seem very well adjusted if you've had a rough life. You really seem like a very adjusted person.
Some might say.
Well, I would say.
I don't think I've had a rough life compared to some people. That's kind of how I view it. Like, yeah, bad shit happens to everybody growing up, dude. It just is what it is. But you didn't have that bad of a role, It could always be worse.
It could always be worse. Exactly.
I think my saving grace is having a good dad, honestly.
Did you know
that was my anchor forever?
They said that what do you think the number one factor of a good relation or good parenting is?
Good father, man.
Right.
It's the people want to talk that shit, right? Equality, and the women's just as important, dude.
They are.
They're very important, but it's even they need that counsel from like a good father figure and things, right? It's tied in, man. It's just
they said that the number one results of a woman being a good mother. I'm going to screw this up. heard
Good
this one person
person.
say that is that they have a supportive husband. It's easier for a woman to be a great mom when they have a supportive husband.
I say,
That's what I think.
the best thing you can do for your kids is love their mother.
Well, the relationship you guys have is what they're going to seek out. So if with
They mean
my
that a little
kids,
different though, because they say the best thing you can do for your kids is love their mother. Because when you love their
that's a good
mother, then
point.
she's able to give them what they need.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Mm.
That the number one indicator of a good mother is a supportive husband.
Yep.
And
Somebody that
when they
gives her
see
the
love in
space
the
to do her
household,
job, right?
yeah, it makes it easier. It makes it possible to do her job. If she's fighting you, she can't focus on raising the kids the right way.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
That's
It's
what I
tough.
say. The best thing you can do for your kids is love their mother.
That's a short. I love that short analogy to make that work. That was
Yeah.
really good.
I'm
You
full
know,
of them.
the
Just ask
best
me.
way to raise your kids is to love their mother, and I was like, that's a great one.
Well, the best thing you can do for them, because that's their love, that's their support, that's their. I mean, we are in a way, but not nearly like what their mother is.
Well, they're around the most. Like, they went around in New York. They
Well,
went
they're in
around the
tune
truth.
with them too, because these little creatures are emotional as hell, and so are they. So they kind of vibe and they get it, and their little creatures are growing up, and it's just that we matter way more like 10 years old and beyond, right? The first few years, it's all woman, dude. It's all woman, dude. It's
That's 100% right. Like I told my wife, like my wife would enable my kids into being heroin addicts. And I said, hey, and I knew that she takes care of the kids. And if I was a weak husband, she would enable those kids, and they'd be living with me now. And none of them live with me. And my kids got more doors than I do. My son's got more doors than I do in multifamily. So what I'm trying to illustrate is, I told my wife, you got the kids until they're 12, then they're mine.
yeah.
You can't do what you want to do past that. You'll just destroy them. And she
Well,
knew that.
boys especially though.
Girls too.
It's important
You
for
know,
girls too, but it could really fuck up a boy's life if it
it fucks
doesn't.
up both of them equally if you give them everything. The fastest way to turn your
It
kids into
does.
heroin addicts is give them everything.
It does fuck them up both, but I just feel I could be off, but I just feel like it fucks with boys a little more.
You might be right, but I haven't seen any data that
Yeah, no,
proves that.
this isn't a data thing as much. It's kind of just a feel of how things go and how things actually go versus how people say they go, right?
Yeah, you gotta. I've been calling out bullshit since day one, and that's where I get unpopular. Is I
You
told
got
you
some
from the
bold
beginning.
ideas, do you?
Well, I like to tell truth, and I found out that truth is very offensive.
Well, ask your boy,
Which one?
Jesus.
Well, he knows that. He knows that, man. They nailed me to the cross for telling truth for 3 years. 3 years. It took
he,
3 years.
he died
And
for
do you
what he
know what?
believed
Do you
was
know what
true.
truth? Do you know what truth he told? He basically recited the Torah.
Yeah, he was a Jew.
Right. He basically their Bible at the time. He recited that to people and taught them about that, and they nailed him to a cross. He was talking God and good,
Well,
and they nailed him to a cross.
they got on him once he started trying to be the middleman.
No, they were just they were trying to examine him. They were trying to catch him in his words, and they couldn't.
They couldn't. He was slick. He was slick.
He was, yeah, dude. He would ask. They would ask him a question that the Pharisees knew if he answered either way,
Uh-huh.
he'd be in trouble.
What's the one with
And
the
then
tax? Right? People would ask him how much tax.
there's like three
How
or
much
four.
tax should I give to Caesar, and how much tax should I give to God?
Well,
And he says something slick because if he says give your money to God, then he's gonna get his head chopped off. And if
right. Well,
says
so
give
if
your money to Caesar, then he's like bailing on his ideals or whatever.
he had the Pharisees had the Roman guards there. So if you said don't pay your tax, the Roman guards would say you don't want to pay tax. Then they'd want to kill him.
Yeah.
And the Pharisees said if you give it to the Roman guards, that God's not going to love you, right?
Yeah.
Don't pay tax. So they put him in a sticky situation.
You remember what he
And
said?
he goes. They said should we pay tax to the Roman? Because it was the Jewish country and the land. The Romans were the rulers at the time.
Right,
The
right, right,
police, the
right.
military, the court system, and they just governed them, they call it. And the Roman guards were listening too. They were listening too. And they said, is it fair, is it lawful in the law of Moses to pay taxes? And then Jesus goes, give me a denarius. And someone gave him a denarius. And he goes, whose image and superscription is on this denarius? And he said, Caesar's. And he goes, this is Caesar's coin. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Give unto God what is God's.
That's right. That's right.
And that's where I think it was after that or one other question, and they just didn't ask any more questions because he had the answers.
Well, they tried to pin him down and they couldn't.
Well, you know how they got him?
Crazy stakes, though. Crazy stakes. Nobody alive today will end. Well, maybe not alive today. Russia's, Ukraine, fucking North Korea is a thing.
They're killing Christians. They're killing Christians all over the world, dude.
Oh, China with the Uyghurs, right? It's But dude, nobody in an average day is getting a question that's like, if you don't answer this question right, your head will be rolling soon.
So they just kept going until the point where he answered the question, are you the Messiah? And he said, I'm the Son of God. And then, which was true. And they said, we can't, they thought that was a lie, and they nailed him to the cross, and then he put him in a tomb, and then he came back out, and they saw him, and they're like, oh shit, he is the Son of Man.
Wow.
So I guess it's true.
There's discrepancies.
In what?
I'll find one for you. How about that?
Sure. Give me one.
Yeah, give me a second. I'll roll on.
A lot of them are opinions, just so you know. All historians believe that Jesus Christ lived, died, and was resurrected.
No, that's not true.
Majority of the historians
think he lived. They think he lived, and they think he died.
And he came back. Mm-hmm.
Give you that far.
The death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is the most documented. What am I trying to say? The most documented event in human history. So how do they prove human history? Is they get all the writings for and they get all the writings against. And the second most proven fact in history was this one war, and there were 600 writings for and 3 against that this war didn't happen, right? And so what they do is they omit the 3. The death and resurrection of Christ is 4,900 and something, 4 and 0 against. When they had the Romans and the Jewish people would love to say that didn't happen. So if we had videotape, it'd be irrefutable. But now we have just written word, and that's what we call history.
Well, his
if
story,
you're talking about the Anunnaki, huh?
His story, right?
No, the story. The story became history.
It's a play on that. It's some people call it history, some people call it his story.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
his story.
Yeah. The winners write the rule book,
Well, I grant that, but would you consider Jesus a winner when they nailed him to a cross and stuck him in the tomb?
Didn't seem like one, did it?
And if you think about the story, it is insane. Like everything God asks is legally insane.
Well, it's the Moses and the 80-year-old guy in the desert and everything else. It's like, God damn.
All of it's insane. The book is insane. What God asks you to do is generally insane.
But is this because people put it off until it has to be done?
No.
This is like America joining World War II finally because we have to? Like, do men just naturally? I've wondered this before. Do men just kind of naturally put shit off until it has to be done?
Well,
as a whole,
probably.
Yeah, because nobody wants to lead. That's really what it comes down to.
It's not that.
Nobody wants to lead.
We went through World War I. Do you want to get back in World War II? No, we don't want to get back in World War II. They bombed Pearl Harbor. Like, you know what, motherfuckers? Guess what we're doing? We're joining the war. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so the side was picked relatively easily. We know who the enemy was, and then we went to work. But the industrialness of the United States is insane. When we went, I learned we only had like 250,000 troops, or maybe 150,000 troops in World War II.
Yeah, we weren't the big contributor in World War II. We were
No.
just the deciding factor. We kind of toppled the scale at the end there.
And then by the end of World War II, we were an amazing fighting force. Like America went from minding their own business, which I would say that's what we should do, right? Most people would say mind
But
your own
is
fucking
this is that cycle though? This is the cycle of people just minding their own business. They're not leading. They're minding their own business naturally.
well,
It's kind of like the people today, right? You have to
when
kick
you
people in
want
the
that,
fucking you got to kick people in the fucking ass today to get involved in these politics because shit has gone so fucking sideways because nobody wants to touch the shit because it's fucking gross and disgusting. It's a whole subhuman world of fuckery going on that nobody wants to deal with it until you have to deal with it.
right? Isn't that
'Cause
kind of the
nobody wants to
process?
lead.
Well, nobody wants to. Well, because leaders usually get their heads chopped off.
Yes, that's exactly right. I'm
What about
so
the
glad you
bullet to
came to
the? What
that
about the
because no,
bullet to the ear?
most people hear that and they're like, "I'm a leader." I'm like, "Oh, really, motherfucker? Oh, really?" Because in an old sense, we're at a crossroads. We're at a fork in the road. The leader makes a call. If he makes a bad call, it's likely we're eating him for dinner, maybe. Because you will fucking die, dude, for being a bad leader. And I completely get why people are hesitant to be a leader. But people with their fucking ego, and especially in this day and age, right? I'm a leader, I'm a leader, everybody's a fucking leader. Oh, really? Everybody's a goddamn chief all of a sudden when the shit's easy. Yeah, get the fuck out of my face with that. That's crazy.
Well, I've been very fortunate to lead a bunch of groups, and it isn't. It's a thankless job.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
thankless job, and I did get thanked more for afterwards than during. So the
Man, that
karate school that
got me all
I
fired up. Jesus Christ.
I know, good, gotcha, I like it. The karate school that I ran, I remember I was a second dan, and the guy that owned it asked me to run it at second dan, and I go, nah. I gave it to my contemporary, was another second dan that was 25 years old, and he did a good job, but for he's still a 25-year-old. I was 45, so I had more experience. He asked me first, I didn't do it, and then when he left, he asked me again, and I accepted the job,
Mm.
and I started the leadership part of the martial arts, and I learned a lot from that. It's thankless. People give you a hard time. You have to defend your position. You have to get everybody going in the right direction, and it's not easy.
You
It's
know,
very thankless and not easy is the two probably greatest things. And I was fighting everybody. I was fighting my subordinates and my superior. It was just like we
fuck.
got he put in for every time you get a belt, you have a form to do, a series of techniques. And then for my second time, there was 5 forms to do. I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Every form, every belt up to that was a form. And now you're on 5. That's insane. And he's like, yeah, you got to do it. And I did it. And I hated it. And then everybody behind me cried about it the entire time. But I had to make them do it. I had to do it first.
Well, yeah, yeah.
To be a good leader, I had to do it first,
Uh,
and then they had to do it. And if they cried about it and said, I did it, I did this. Now, since I'm gone, they dropped it back down to 2 forms. I'm like, you fuckers, you know.
well,
But
you can always have those bragging rights then.
well, the bragging rights that I had was everybody seemed to love it, and performance. I'm a performance oriented individual. So when I started, there was 3 or 4 or 5 black belts, right? And then when I took over, there's then 2 of them are leaving. There was like 4 or 5 black belts. And then when I left, it was like a 5 or 7 year, maybe 5 to 7 year that I was doing it. There was 26 black belts. So my retention on black belts was a lot greater. That gives the students, basically we had 2 to 1. Like each black belt would have 2 students to teach.
Wow.
So the level of education was really high.
Well,
You
you get
know,
1-on-1 type of, yeah.
almost. And there's sometimes,
Well,
some of
not
the students.
exactly, but even versus a group setting with one instructor, it's way better. The more closer you can get to 1-on-1, the better off you'll be.
The attention that
Yep.
two
Yep.
students get versus 20 students. And I had to I had to do the whole class once in a while. Some of the black belts didn't show up, and I do the whole class. You guys do this, green belts over here. You do this, you do this, you do forms, you do sparring, you do this, and I would run an entire class because some of the black belts didn't show up. And then more of them kept showing up, more of them came showing up. And then what you have to do is, as you grow, you have to put people in positions underneath you to get. So what my secret of retention is, and how I understand how companies work is, you go from white belt to black belt. Once you go to black belt, you go second, third, fourth, fifth. I'm at fifth right now. You got to make them do the same thing you did. And the hard part for me was I was a really good teacher, but I had to step back and let my black belts teach.
That's the detachment we talked about earlier.
Yes. That was tough for me because I saw them doing it not as good as I could do it.
You have to let
But it
go of
was
your baby. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I like your descriptions of stuff. But that's really the key. It's really the key
Same
because
thing with business, it's letting go of your baby.
right. And
That's
then
why
you got to
most people
watch.
don't graduate. Most people stay in that self-employed spot. They don't get to be the business owner because they can't let go of the baby.
Well, they don't want to. So, there's certain benefits to that. Like, business owner, like I had guys working for me. One guy worked for me for 20 something years. And one guy worked for me 15, one for 7, one for 8. Most of my guys that work with me worked for me for a long period of time. I made a great environment for them and had great work for them. They got paid good. And the secret to that was it really was getting them to do what they wanted to do. So in trimming, we did these mansions. One of the small ones was 4,000 square feet. The smallest house I trimmed every year was the house that I built. The houses I worked for everybody else, we did 5-hour energy. It was a 12,000 square foot house. It took a year to just put the casing and base and doors and cabinets in the house. That's how big of a beautiful house it was. It was gorgeous. And it was a great gig. And whoever liked doing whatever they were supposed to do is what I put in it. There's one guy who was
Yeah,
really good at
yeah, yeah. You
stairs.
tell me about that. Yeah.
He did the stairs. One guy did crumbling. He did the crumbling. And then if you can build a great company if you put everybody in the right spot. But if you have the guy that likes doing crown doing staircase, yeah, you got a tough
This
life
is
ahead of you.
this is where I think you fell in love with that process, is what it sounds like, because you lean into the, rightly so in a lot of ways, but lean into the let people do what they want to do naturally. You know,
Yeah,
specialist, the specialist. There you go.
they're specialists, and they'll be
Yeah,
happy doing it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But somebody who's interested in science will go farther in it than somebody who's just doing it to get the degree or whatever, right?
Exactly. Some people do things for money, and then they're not happy. There's a lot of people that there's a
I think
lot of
most
people that are
people.
doing. Probably most people are doing what they don't want
Almost
to do.
all, except for people at like the higher echelons.
Well, I don't know, man. I enjoyed everything I did. I remember being a
But
bass boy.
that's kind of fucked up though, because you can learn to love what you do, even if it's kind of fucked up.
Well, focusing on the positive. It really all boils down to focusing on the positive. You can focus on positive and negative choices. You got two paths, victim or victor.
Easier said than done.
I disagree. I disagree.
I guess that's
I
one of
think
those if
it's
you tell yourself that. But dude, no, I'm telling you, it's easier said than done. Your brain is hardwired for negativity. You know that, right?
your brain is hardwired for
A
negativity.
human's brain is hardwired for negativity.
No,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
no.
It is.
I know what you're trying to say.
Factually, it is.
Let's say your
It,
brain is
it kept
hardwired
you
to
alive in
be
the like the caveman days. It keeps you alive from danger. It keeps you alive from this negativity. It's much more important for you to remember negative things out in the world than positive things, because negative things will kill you.
right. So
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 that's you're
you
hardwired
said
that
it.
way though.
Well, you're hardwired to protect yourself. Your brain's only designed is to protect the body
Yeah. Worry
because it
about
keeps the
danger.
brain alive.
Danger is negativity. It's all in baked
Well,
in.
you could say it that way, or you could say, what's the difference between fear and danger?
Well, you say could say, but it doesn't matter. Baseline, it's wired for negativity. You could spin it
It's
as you
wired
want
to
later.
focus. It's wired to focus on protection of your body. Is that a positive or negative thing?
Positive.
Focus on positive. Now, if you're focusing on
No,
if
you
you're
say it's
focusing on the
wired to
limits,
protect your
if you
body.
if
You said it's
yeah,
wired to protect your body. That is a positive. That it harps on the negative to keep you
but
alive
you said that our brain's hardwired
for
for negative.
negativity.
I just showed you the brain has one design, is to get the body alive because that's self-sufficient.
Well, because it's harping on negativity for a positive outcome.
It's focusing on the negative things that could happen to protect you from that.
Right.
I'll give
Right.
you that. I'll give you that. My brain doesn't. And do you have
You
the
know what this is?
ability?
You know what this is? We were talking about this a little bit earlier. This is that abundance scarcity shit all over again.
Well, it's part of it. Yeah,
It's a
but
big
it's
part
the
of it.
focus.
A
It's
big part.
focus. It's the focus. It's positive, and it all boils down to positive and negative. It all boils down to positive in everything you do. Your marriage, your work, your
Well, you
friends,
have it's the
your
stoic thing.
passions.
It's the stoic thing again. You can't control the world. You can only control how you react.
Right. So
But you
it's
have
so
a choice.
this is great.
To your
This is great.
point. To your point, you have a choice. You could go down one road or another road.
Correct. You have choice. So you're saying you have choice to choose whether to focus on positive or negative, right?
Correct.
You agree with that statement?
Correct.
So is your brain hardwired? Is my brain hardwired to focus on negative?
By default,
Have you ever heard me focus on negative?
I think that you've developed the muscle to combat said default, but it is still default.
My point in case. I don't focus on the positive, so I don't focus on the negative, and really that's really the crux. Is I can't say my brain is no longer focused on the negative. Negative things happens to me, but and I'm aware of negative. Like when we focus on on apartments, right? I have to do due diligence and make sure that the property is going to perform, right? I'm not focusing on the negative. I'm making sure that this is going to work.
You're definitely focusing on the negative. That's kind of what that whole Socratic method is, though, It's the hole poking, it's the negative. You're searching for negative in your puzzle of whatever so that you can make it more bulletproof. But that's what you're doing, though.
No, it's not focusing on the negative. You're
It
focusing on
definitely is. I'm looking for the flaws. I'm looking for the holes, the gaps, the weaknesses. I'm looking for the negative.
That's a process.
Intentionally looking for the negative.
Right. I'll give you that. Intentionally looking for the negative. Is that process good or bad?
It's all designed for a positive outcome.
Correct. That's my point. But you're saying it. You're looking at whatever situation in a negative way.
No, not
I'm
necessarily
showing
a
you the
negative
positive
way.
in everything we're talking about.
Not a negative way, but you have to
You're saying it's all
acknowledge that
negative. It's all
negativity.
negative. It's all negative.
Negative is the baseline. That's what keeps you alive.
So, do you have more negative than I do in your life?
Of course.
Okay.
I think everybody has just about more negative than you do in your life.
So my question is why?
Because you have more money.
My question is why?
I told you, you have more money. I told you this shit before. We were talking on the phone. I said, I've got a lot of this life shit figured out, except for the money.
You do. You're a sharp cookie. But if you were to, I come to you from the future. If you were to focus more on positive, you'd be surprised where your life goes.
Easier said than done.
I disagree.
Well, you don't have a lot of problems in your life, so.
I had a lot of problems. Dude, I started
Remember that part where you said you had anxiety, you were stressed out, you went to the doctor? You remember all that? Easier said than done.
That's when I learned to focus on positive. So
easier said than done, clearly.
No, it wasn't that hard.
Oh, you just had to go get some pills that didn't work.
Right. And then I had to change my mindset.
Oh, wasn't that hard? You would have done it way sooner, wouldn't you have?
I didn't know I had to.
Yeah.
Once like I said, whenever you have a stumbling block and you bring it up in front of you, it'll disappear.
Well, the fear thing, yeah.
Well, in anything, like my stumbling block was I didn't know I had to focus on the positive. That was my stumbling block when I was your age.
No, you have to. I mean, you have to make a conscious effort to focus on the positive. That's just a muscle you have to
And
develop.
do you think that's hard?
I think there's a lot of factors in a life. So yeah, this is yes. That's probably the hardest part about life, isn't it? I've heard Jordan Peterson talk about this even recently. It's like how you owe it to everybody to show up with your best self, even though you have bills mount that are past due, you have food that you don't know how you're going to feed people, you need to take care of your people, you got all these stressors on you, and that's probably the hardest thing about life, isn't it? Is being able to show up 100% for the people that you need to show up for.
The number one person you got to show up for is yourself. That's what most people miss.
Well,
You
yeah,
owe it to
well,
yourself to make the greatest life in the world.
you have to put your oxygen mask on before you can help your kids, you know.
That's true too. Another good point.
That's how they teach it. We're going down in a plane.
No, that's a very good point. You got to take care of yourself first.
Yeah, but that's not the Christian way.
Why not?
Because how many people do you, and I've seen this historically over the years, is how many people at the church are give, 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 but nobody gives to them. It happens like this. It's just give unto everybody else, but you're homeless. And it's just like, yeah. I've seen this so many people, so many times, so many years. That's the natural way because they feel good for giving, 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 but they never take care of themselves because they're too focused on the message and the give and the yeah.
So I've noticed that.
Give
See,
to the extreme, I guess is kind of
here's the part where we differ. Here's the part where we differ.
there's lots of those.
Yes, not really. We're not of one accord, but we when I explain something, you have a very short sentence on that. Like
Yeah.
perfect. So we do agree on a lot of things.
Yeah.
The big difference between me and you is your statement. You were just talking about a give and give and give, and nobody gives to them. You give and give and give, and nobody gives to them. The God gives to me. He gives me opportunity to do the job and help people in the process, and I make a very fair wage for what I do. He gives me all these opportunities, and I have to capitalize on them. And I have to do my part. I have to show up. I have to get up at 6:30 in the morning, work out, and then go to work. I have to do my part. But
Right.
you say nobody gives to you, and that's where we differ.
Oh,
And
they
I'm
could be rich
telling you,
in they could be rich in spirit, but they still don't know where their next meal's coming from. Like I've just seen this with people over the years. It's the little old ladies that just don't all their family died or whatever, and they just keep pouring into the church and their personal life is getting no
so
better. And it's
so
just like
typically women aren't great with money.
uh they're great at saving it.
Typically women aren't great at saving money.
You don't think
If you
so?
got a saver, then you're in great shape.
I do. I said
My wife is a
responsible,
spender.
didn't I?
You did the right thing. My wife is a spender. She's great at everything else, but and so I had to make a plan at the beginning, right? Because I knew she was a spender. When we met, we both had $4,500, or we had $3,000, and she was 20. I was 22, and she was 17, and we both had our cars paid for. And then a year later, she was flat broke, and I had $4,500. And I said, if we get married, I run the money. And she goes, so that took away a lot of the arguments of the thing. And then I showed her, I showed her how to save, and I gave her what she needed to spend. And I don't think she's ever saved anything.
I have a theory as to why that would be.
Well, it's pretty typical, and it's very important too.
You
And
know why though? You know
I hope
why
people
that's
don't take this
typical?
the wrong way. Why? I can explain mine, but I probably explain it and you do it in a sentence. So go ahead and do the sentence first.
I just they're more emotional, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're more
And that's a good thing.
impulsive.
That's a good thing. Here's why it's a good thing.
Okay, I'm listening.
So
Tell
we
me why
segment.
this is a good thing,
This is a
please.
good thing. This is a good thing. My wife buys things for me that I wouldn't buy for myself. She buys stuff for us that I wouldn't buy for myself.
Same.
Right? So she's giving me a better life than I'd give to myself.
I don't think that's a better life, but
It
yeah.
is a better life because you're supposed to spend on yourself. But us
The
as men, we want to
material
take care of our
things
family.
doesn't mean better life.
Huh? It is a better life for you. It is a better life. If she's spending money on you, I like pears, she gets me these pears, right? And if I ask, hey, I would like that, and she goes, why don't you buy it? I go, I don't want to, and she knows I'm cheap, so then it shows up on my door, and I'm like, thank you. So she gives me a better life, and then she doesn't like vacations that much, and I give her a better life by taking her on these vacations to different countries and
No,
stuff.
it's a team thing. It's supposed to be a
It
team
is.
thing. It's
It's
like
a,
you
it's
said that they do stuff better than we do stuff better than they do. It's the same shit over.
exactly. And I want people to understand when women take care of the men and then they spend money on the man, that's them showing love to them,
Oh
and it
man,
it is
you want to
so
fill you
important.
want to fill a guy up, dude? Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. And
Oh
I
my
I
god.
and I kind
You
of
want him to
cringe
run
until
through
we
a
spend the
fucking
money.
wall for you, dude?
And right now, at the stage of our life, we're a lot older. Our kids are gone. We don't spend all this money on our kids. We're in a different position. And then my wife wants a car, and she wanted a Camaro. I'm like, what do you want? And she goes, I get a couple year old car because I'm sick of buying new cars. It's just you drive it off the lot, you lost $5,000. And she goes, I want this one. I like the shorter one. And she goes, yeah, that's one. It's just so nice. We'll go pick out what we want. And I give her what she wants because she always gives me what I want.
That must be nice.
It is. And when you get here, when you're 6 years old and you're here and you get to show somebody else how to do it, you'll be very happy about it.
I don't know. I
You
don't know.
will.
I don't think. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to think about that far in the future, really.
It is. At your age, it was hard for me too.
No, I can. I just don't know because everybody's different, and it's like you don't know what kind of people you're gonna have in 30 years or whatever.
You'd be surprised how many if you got good friends, they'll still be around. I got friends from high school that I talk to.
Yeah, old friends is different. That's a thing. Yeah. But I've had to teach my wife that old friends don't necessarily mean good friends either.
No. So it's how they treat you. I got friends I could call. I
Well,
got friends I could call up right now. I can call right out of Michigan, and I'm in South Carolina. I say, be here tomorrow. And they're like, yeah, gotcha.
that's a friend. Yeah,
That's a friend.
that doesn't even come by that often.
No, no.
And that's
One
why
of them's
men.
unemployed right now, so it doesn't count. That
That's
doesn't
that,
count.
that's why most men say they don't have any friends right there.
Well, you got to put into the relationship too. There's some friends that I got that I put no effort into, and they're still friends. But they it's weird. Like I got this one friend. I stood up in his wedding. He stood up in my wedding, and we worked together. And we had a great relationship. Worked loved each other for years, and then we just drifted apart after kids. I had kids, and then he had kids after my kids were growing up, and then his kids are gone away, and we start talking once in a while. But it seems like we never left. It's a
No,
really
guys do
cool
that.
how
That's how guys do.
yeah
It's different. They
it
don't need to
is.
catch up. It's just yeah. Where we leave off? Oh yeah, you're a fucking asshole.
He posted. I posted today that these deer are running through the water, and I'm like, I didn't know deer could swim. They're swimming great too. By the way, I didn't know they could swim that great because they don't have hands to
Yeah,
push the water on. They're just trucking through the water. And I took video of it and I posted it. And he goes, "Yeah, deer can swim," And he said something, and my retort was, "I remember when we." Oh, he said, "Stony Creek is this park. It's open from 9 in the morning or 9 at night and stuff." And when we were kids, he parked. He goes, "Hey, I'm going to take these girls out." And we had a couple girls, and we went to the subdivision. Where are you going? He goes, "You got it." And he stopped the car, and got out, and we started walking through this person's backyard, and it came out in the back of Stony Creek. And then we went over to the Stony Creek where they rent the boats, and we took a couple boats and went on the water. And I go, I remember that time we stole a couple boats at 1 o'clock in the morning for our girlfriends. And he starts laughing. And that's the guy I haven't talked to in 30 years. That's what guys are.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna play this. See what you think about this clip.
Uh-oh. You scared
There's
me.
only one other option other than obviously that Christ rose from the dead. I would ascertain, and you can disagree if you feel free. It would be that his disciples, people who truly loved him, stole his body and somehow disposed of it.
Well, it could have been somebody else who stole the body.
But what motivation would they have to steal the body and dispose of it?
Grave robbing was quite popular in that time.
But there were guards, remember?
Around that area. Well, there are guards that are only reported to Matthew. And what does Matthew say about the guards? He's the only person that reports the guards. And what do the guards do? They say that Jesus has disappeared, and the high priests pay the guards to tell people that the body's been stolen. Now, what does Matthew say? He says, and this is a rumor that they went and spread that persists to this day. So the author of Matthew knew that there were people who were saying that somebody stole the body, and intentionally puts these guards there, has this story of the high priest paying them off to spread this rumor in order to combat that rumor. So we know that people in the early church, before the writing of the Gospel of Matthew,
weren't in the impression
thought that the body was stolen. There's even, Tertullian talks about, this is amazing, Tertullian talks about a theory that some people were spreading that the gardener had stolen the body of Jesus because he didn't want people to come and spoil his lettuces when they came to see him as a shrine.
Yeah, I love those guys. Grave robbing wasn't a big thing back in the day. There's no benefit to grave robbing.
It's a huge business historically.
How is the benefit of stealing a body?
Well, I don't know if it was grave robbers, but I think
give me a second. Let's analyze it. Let's do it Socratically. So, what is the benefit to stealing a body?
Value of some kind.
What value does a dead body give?
Well, if it's
a detriment.
If it's not that dead, you can sell an organ, maybe.
They didn't have operations in zero.
I don't know. They're looking for jewelry and things typically.
That wasn't left in the tombs.
That kind of thing.
Okay, fine. If that was left in the tomb, take that, leave the body. Why would you take the effort of taking the body?
Why is there only one book that said, or one case, Matthew, that says that there was guards? That's kind of weird.
No, there was guards, and I could spin this to make it impossible for you to disagree. So Roman soldiers that were posted at the if they were let me there's two kinds of guards. There's the guards for the temple.
Run back through it?
No. There's guards for the temple and there's Roman guards. If a Roman guard left his post, his punishment is death.
Right.
Right? Today, if you fall asleep at your post, you go to the break. Right? So if these Roman soldiers were there wasn't two that the body was stolen. One was that angels came and the guards fled. Another of the Gospels, angels came down and rolled the stone away. The guards ran away. They abandoned their post. Then probably, if they were Roman, they died. If they were the guards for the temple, they could live. So I'm assuming it was the guards from the temple. And then another one is that there was, people came and it was gone and somebody stole the body. Then Mary came there the next day and said, who stole the body? And there was an angel that said, the body's not stolen. He told you. And he didn't tell. See, Jesus was very cryptic. He's told the Pharisees yelled at him and he said, he goes, give us a sign. He goes, destroy this. He's in front of the Jerusalem temple. So destroy this temple and in 3 days I'll rebuild it. And they're like, but this took 100 years to build. You're out of your fucking mind. He was talking about his body. And he did it in such a cryptic way that after 3 days, they heard that he rose again. And they're like, and they actually posted the guards because they remember he said he was going to come back. And those guards ran for their lives. And if they were Roman, they would be executed. So this is a very corroborated story. And there was two different versions of it. One that just happened.
Was the only one. Apparently Matthew was the only one who talked about it.
If you haven't read the Gospels, then you can't really say that. One of them that the angels came down.
I will tell you about this guy. I promise you he's more well-versed on the Bible than you. I promise. Without a doubt.
I'll disagree with you, and I'll show you next time we're there.
Without a doubt. He is the most knowledgeable person about the Bible I think I've ever seen.
No, absolutely not. No, the most knowledgeable person I've ever met, and he's 100% true, is that Wes Huffman.
No.
Oh yeah,
He
absolutely.
makes Wes Huff look bad.
I'd love those two getting a debate. Wes Huff and
Yes.
fucking.
Yes. They've had this going on. I have these clips actually back and forth because there was a while that Wes Huff went on Rogan and he debunked what he said on there. And then the group of YouTube Christians tried to debunk what he said. And he went after each one of them. Like, no, 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 no. Facts, receipts, all that. Like, this dude
Facts,
is
receipts.
on it, dude. Well, the Bible is the book, right? It's the receipts.
Well, it's so that's the part that people don't get. Back in the day,
Otherwise, we're just dealing with fairy tale crap.
Well, everybody thinks that the Bible could not be true, but those writings. Everybody that wrote that stuff wrote it all with the option of being killed. If you were a Christian back in the day, you were hunted and killed, just like they're being hunted and killed today. So to write that down is a dangerous statement. And they go, well, the closest book was 70 years after Jesus died. Yeah, because if you had it, you were fucking killed. That's why. There's reasons for everything, and most people just don't understand the reasons. So if you were in possession of the book of Thomas, you'd fucking die. If you're in the possession of the book of Matthew, you'd die. If you're in the possession of the book of Luke, you would die. Not Luke. Luke came after that. Luke, I think it was 100 years, went to go find out if it was all true. So he wasn't a disciple. He was just someone that was charged to find out if the story was true. And that was the book of Luke. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
I think that Alex would make Wes Huff look stupid.
Dude, I will fucking bet money. Put those two together.
How these two together?
I'll give you the 50. I'll put the $50 on the table and say go.
Yes.
Wes Huff will belittle.
Oh my God! You think he's like some Billy Carson? You are out your mind, boy.
What did he do to fucking Carson? What are you doing to belittle the shit out of him?
This is a whole nother world. I'm telling you, Alex looks down on Wes Huff and all the other. Yeah,
he's a fucking scholar for a living. What does this other guy do? Podcast?
Alex does it for fun.
But okay, cool. Do you want?
Dude, I'm telling you, you see this guy light up when people actually engage him in theological bullshit with Christianity.
Then let Wes Huff.
He lights up like a fucking Christmas tree. Remember he said earlier about the person going their interest will go so much farther? He's that guy. It's crazy. Watch. Let's see.
It does seem to me suspicious, for example, that the Gospel of Mark, which is the earliest Gospel, contains no post-resurrection appearances. And then the Gospel of Matthew does include post-resurrection appearances. The Gospel of Luke includes even more. It's only in the Gospel of John that we get, for instance, doubting Thomas, which is the latest.
Pause.
Yep.
The guy that went through Luke went through and found it was all. You find out his job was to report back to a king if this was true or not. This was his job. And he said Luke had more than the other ones.
I said Luke was earlier, right? That's what they said?
No, Luke was later.
Oh, hold on. I'm going to replay it.
So he's saying that one of the disciples didn't put that in there because he knew the other one did. Go ahead.
It does seem to me suspicious, for example, that the Gospel of Mark, which is the earliest Gospel, contains no post-resurrection appearances. And then the Gospel of Matthew does include post-resurrection appearances. The Gospel of Luke includes even more. It's only in the Gospel of John that we get, for instance, doubting Thomas, which is the latest Gospel, canonical Gospel, I should say. That's where that arises. And in fact, the story of doubting Thomas, famously, he doesn't believe that it's the risen Christ. And Jesus says, come and touch my wounds. And he touches his wounds and he says, my Lord and my God. And Jesus says, you believe because you've seen. Blessed are those who believe without seeing. So in my view, what we have is this. So
I'm just going to pause this for a second just to tell you, I told you this motherfucker's on it, dude.
Is this?
He's not saying anything that's incorrect, and if you did, you'd be belittled on.
I got you,
so
but you're nodding along.
Is factual at this point. But
right.
Now, if he comes out with opinion, it doesn't say it's opinion because most people don't read Matthew.
Well, I don't know where it's going, but let's see where it's going.
Let's see where it's going.
Is this so-called mythological development of no post-resurrection appearances, and as the time goes on, as we get further away from the source, the stories get more fantastical, ending in a moral lesson to believe without evidence. Seeing. Yes, this to me does seem.
Yeah.
To believe without evidence. That believe without evidence is faith.
Right. But
There's
he's pointing out how the further we get away from the source and the original stories, things get a little more fantastical as we go.
Isn't that every fucking story ever?
Story! Thank you.
Right. What's the difference between story and truth?
Oh, well, I assume a story can be truthful, but when you think of story, you think of any possibility.
So these guys that wrote the book were hunted down to be killed for what they said was true. Do you think anybody in this fucking world would with a gun to their head say this wasn't true, wouldn't say true, this isn't true?
Sure.
Right. Most people are weak.
No, I'm saying I think this is a weak argument, honestly. People die for truth. People don't die for truth that they don't believe in, da. Like, yeah, well, even if they're wrong, if they believed it to be true, they'd still die.
So you think if someone knew something wasn't true, they'd die for it?
No, I'm telling you that even if they thought it was true and they were wrong, they would still die for it.
No, most people. No, I disagree. I
What?
disagree. I
He's
disagree
the
wholeheartedly.
biggest example of this. He died for what he
Right.
believed was true.
Exactly.
Even if he's wrong,
Right.
he's
But
still
yes.
dying for what he believed was true.
Right. It was true to them.
To them.
Yes. The eyewitnesses.
These. Oh boy.
It was true to the eyewitnesses. And you're trying to take the other people that weren't eyewitnesses' opinions over the eyewitnesses. Who sounds crazy here?
Have you ever looked into the validity of eyewitness testimony?
Absolutely.
It's dog shit.
So okay, do you and the beauty of those gospels is that there's different situations that they said different things. Right? That makes, so what you do is you put it all together and take away the idiosyncrasies, and you end up with truth. And it's the craziest story in the world. Period.
Not really.
But I would say it's true in
I'd say Genesis.
even the atheist.
Genesis is much crazier.
No, the death
The
and
creation
resurrection
of everything is not crazier.
No, that's
Oh yeah, that's normal. Happens all the time. Yeah.
Oh, it only happened once. It only needed to happen once.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's far crazier.
Well, listen, dude, I'm gonna have to let us go. It's getting late. We had a great time.
Yeah, man. I told you how grave robbers took your boy.
What benefit would that be?
Well, my theory is a little different, just from a 30,000 foot view, not really close to it, but and Jesus was a rock star, man.
Oh, he was a rebel. He wasn't a rock star. He was a rebel. He came to change. He came to change everything.
He was a rock star in his day.
He's a rebel.
And by the time he died, he had quite the following.
No, absolutely not.
What?
And find out in the year 7.
The king was just worried about a nobody, huh?
Well, no. Well, they wanted to know, but you got to understand they were persecuted and killed for saying it, and it's just like it's happening in China now. There's people that if they have Bible studies, and if they were to get fucking caught, they'd be executed. You don't understand. Back in the day, right now is the pinnacle, and it's starting to decline. Like the Christianity is starting to lose members. I think the Muslim is starting to go a little bit higher, but even the Muslims talk about Jesus Christ. Actually, I think the Quran speaks of Jesus more than they speak of Muhammad. It's crazy.
I was watching some podcasts, doing some notes on it, and I had to actually retrace it. The guy was talking about how the Jews are the only motherfuckers alive that think that Jesus was a piece of shit.
No, they think he was a good teacher.
The Islamic world
knew that he existed.
Oh, really? They killed him for no reason, did they?
Well, they
thought that Mary was burning in hell and all that shit, man.
Well, everybody's got opinions.
That's the Jewish opinion of him, though. But he was pointing out how the Muslims think Jesus was awesome. The Christians think Jesus was awesome. Everybody thinks Jesus was awesome, but the Jews.
Well, the Jews just here
we go with just.
Jesus told the Jews that he goes, you'll reject the Messiah, and they did. So he knew that before he died.
I just
And
think
he
it's
goes,
ironic.
and he did this. This is horrible. This is horrible. He had this parable of the wine press, and before this is a good way to end this one on. And the religious leaders were hammering him, trying to find holes in his game and stuff like that. And he was pissed at him, and he said the parable of the wine press. This is he goes, this man had this field, and he made a winery, and he gave it to these husbandmen, people to take care of it while he's gone, and he went away. And then he sent a servant over to collect the money for the land that and the business that he started. And they beat him and sent him back. And then he sent another servant. And then they beat him. And then they sent a third servant and they killed him. Then they sent the third one that was the son, his son. He sent the son. He goes, they're going to listen to my son. He sent the son and they killed the son because he's the heir. Right? What's going to happen to those people in the wine press?
It's gonna be over.
Right? And then what he's gonna do with the vineyard? Put other husbandmen in there that are gonna pay him. Right?
Yeah.
He told that parable to the Sadducees, and they realized they were talking about him. God gave the Sadducees and the priests of the temple the governance of God, and they weren't listening to his son, and they killed his son. So they're going to take it away and give it to Christians. And they knew that's what they were talking about, that they were the first husbandmen of the wine press.
Wow.
And he goes, they hated him for it. Because he knew they were going to kill him. He told the story, and that story is just crazy because the story was told right before they killed him. And then he came back. It's insane. It's a legally insane story.
As if he didn't know they were coming for his head then, I guess.
He knew. But it's crazy. All right, dude, let's sign off, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, man. Good talking to you.
Have a wonderful night. Peace out.
Bold ideas out.
Bold ideas.